What if everything you perceive as reality is actually your brain's own phase distortion? Are you ready to unlock the hidden code of consciousness and rewire your reality from the inside out? Prepare to have your mind completely blown. Because in this video, we're diving deep into Syntergic Theory. Are you ready to question everything you thought you knew about your brain, your mind, and the very fabric of reality? Let's begin your journey into Syntergy.
Before we dive into the mind-bending world of Syntergic Theory, we need to meet the extraordinary mind behind it all, Jacobo Grinberg Zilberbaum. Who was this man? Why is his work still causing waves in the scientific community, decades after his mysterious disappearance? Have you ever heard of Jacobo Grinberg? Maybe his name rings a bell, or maybe it's completely new to you. Either way, prepare to be captivated by his story. Born in Mexico in 1947, Jacobo Grinberg was far from your typical scientist. He was a rebel intellectual, a multidisciplinary genius, driven by an unrelenting curiosity to unravel the deepest mysteries of the human brain and consciousness. Doctor in neurophysiology, prolific author, explorer of ancient traditions, Jacobo was a scientific explorer in the truest sense of the word. From the sterile environment of the laboratory to the lush, mystical landscapes of the Amazon rainforest, Jacobo relentlessly pursued answers to the most fundamental question of human existence. How does our brain create our experience of reality? This question wasn't just an academic exercise for him. It was a passion, an obsession, a quest that consumed his entire life. Unlike many scientists confined to a single field, Jacobo fearlessly crossed boundaries. He delved into quantum physics, philosophy, mathematics, psychology, and even shamanism. He believed that to truly understand the human brain, we needed to look beyond the limitations of conventional science and explore the ancient wisdom traditions that had pondered the nature of reality for millennia. This unconventional approach, this fearlessness to challenge established paradigms, is what made Jacobo Grinberg both a visionary and a controversial figure. Retention trigger, unconventional approach, visionary and controversial, elements of intrigue and debate. Some hailed him as a genius, a pioneer pushing the boundaries of neuroscience. Others viewed his forays into shamanism and consciousness with skepticism, even ridicule. What do you think? Is it possible to combine rigorous scientific inquiry with ancient wisdom traditions? Share your thoughts in the comments. But regardless of opinions, one thing is undeniable. Jacobo Grinberg was a force of nature, a brilliant mind, driven by an insatiable quest for knowledge. And then, in December of 1994, at the peak of his career, Jacobo Grinberg vanished, disappeared without a trace, leaving behind his groundbreaking scientific work and a mystery that remains unsolved to this day.
Jacobo Grinberg's entire scientific quest was driven by one fundamental question, a question that has puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries. How does the brain create our experience of reality? Think about it for a moment right now as you watch this video. What exactly is happening in your brain that allows you to see these images, hear my voice, understand these words, and feel like you are experiencing something real? It's mind-blowing, isn't it? We tend to assume that our senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, are simply relaying information about an objective world out there like cameras and microphones recording reality as it is. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if our brains are doing something far more active, far more creative, far more mysterious? Emphasis on active, creative, mysterious. Consider optical illusions. Visual examples of classic optical illusions like the Necker cube, the Muller-Lyer illusion, the dress illusion. These simple visual tricks reveal something profound about perception. What we see is not always what's out there. Our brains are actively interpreting sensory input, making assumptions, filling in gaps, constructing a perception that is not necessarily a perfect representation of external reality. It's like our brain is an artist, constantly painting a picture of reality based on limited sensory information and pre-existing patterns. Analogical explanation: brain as artist. Think about the richness and complexity of our sensory experiences. The symphony of sounds when you listen to music, the explosion of colors at sunset, the subtle nuances of taste and smell. How does the brain take raw sensory data, electrical and chemical signals, and transform them into these vibrant, meaningful, and qualitative experiences? Rhetorical question emphasizing complexity and mystery of sensory experience. Science can map neural pathways, measure brain activity, but the subjective, first-person experience of seeing red, hearing music, feeling joy remains a profound enigma. This is the hard problem of consciousness that philosophers and neuroscientists grapple with. Introduce a well-known philosophical concept to add intellectual weight. How we bridge the gap between the objective world of neurons and synapses and the subjective world of feelings, thoughts, and qualia, the what-it-is-likeness of experience? Contrast between objective and subjective worlds. Introduce philosophical term qualia. It's a puzzle that challenges our deepest assumptions about reality and about ourselves. Do you believe that science will eventually fully explain consciousness and subjective experience? Or is there something fundamentally mysterious and perhaps irreducible about the nature of consciousness itself? Let's discuss in the comments.
We live our lives immersed in a sensory bubble, constructed by our 5 senses. We believe what we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is the definitive reality. But consider this: our senses are, fundamentally, biological instruments, with inherent limitations, tuned to a very specific range of stimuli, relevant for our survival as a species on this planet. Are we truly arrogant enough to believe that human survival needs perfectly align with the full spectrum of reality itself? Is it possible that our senses are not revealing reality, but actually concealing it? Think about touch. We perceive objects as solid, hard, immovable. But physics tells us that solidity is an illusion. Matter is mostly empty space. At the atomic level, atoms are mostly empty space, and atoms themselves are made up of even smaller particles separated by vast distances relative to their size. What we feel as solid is actually the electromagnetic repulsion between atoms, not true solidity. Explanation of solidity illusion from physics perspective. Our sense of touch is interpreting complex electromagnetic interactions as solidity, simplifying a far more nuanced and empty reality for our everyday experience. Consider smell. Visual. If visuals were allowed, imagine a dog sniffing with intense focus, then transition to a human smelling a flower, showing the contrast in olfactory experience. Dogs possess an olfactory universe that is almost impossible for us to comprehend. Their sense of smell is tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of times more sensitive than ours. They can detect minute concentrations of molecules, perceive subtle scent gradients, and differentiate between smells that are completely undetectable to the human nose. Example of vastly different sensory capacity in another species, dog sense of smell. What realities are dogs perceiving through their noses that are utterly invisible to our olfactory window on the world?
Rhetorical question highlighting sensory limitations by comparison. Think about time. Our perception of time is linear, continuous, flowing smoothly from past to present to future. But physics, particularly relativity and quantum mechanics, suggests that time itself may be far more complex and less linear than we perceive. Time may be relative to the observer, intertwined with space, and potentially even quantized or emergent from more fundamental processes. Mention of relativity and quantum mechanics to add scientific weight. Is our linear, sequential experience of time a true reflection of the fundamental nature of time itself? Or is it a construct of our brain? A simplification necessary for our biological and psychological functioning? Questioning the linearity of time as a perceptual construct. Our brains are not passive recorders of reality. They are active constructors of reality, reinforcing active brain role in perception. They are constantly filtering, selecting, interpreting, and even predicting sensory information based on past experiences, expectations, and pre-programmed biases. Emphasis on active processes, filtering, selecting, interpreting, predicting. Our perception is not a photograph of the world. It's more like a under-construction model, constantly updated and revised, based on limited and ambiguous sensory data. Analogical explanation. Perception as constantly under construction model. We are living in a simulation, generated by our own brains. A highly convincing simulation, but a simulation nonetheless. Provocative statement. Simulation, sparking further intrigue. Philosophers and spiritual traditions have long questioned the reliability of sensory perception as a guide to ultimate reality. Connection to philosophy and spirituality, adding broader context. From Plato's allegory of the cave, reference to a classic philosophical allegory, to Buddhist teachings on the illusory nature of the self and the phenomenal world, reference to Buddhist philosophy. There is a recurring theme. What we perceive with our senses may be just a shadow, a projection, a limited and potentially misleading interpretation of a deeper, more fundamental reality that lies beyond our conventional sensory grasp, concluding with a powerful metaphor and echoing the idea of deeper reality. If our senses are so limited and potentially deceptive, how can we ever truly know reality? Is there a way to go beyond the limitations of our five senses to access a more authentic, more complete understanding of what is really going on? Concluding with a compelling question leading towards the next section and Grinberg's theory as a potential answer.
We've established that our senses provide a limited, filtered reality. We've hinted at a deeper, more fundamental reality beyond our senses. Now, it's time to confront Jacobo Grinberg's most audacious and groundbreaking proposition, the quantum neural lattice. This is not just a metaphor, not just a philosophical idea. Grinberg believed this lattice to be a literal, physical structure, underlying all of existence, emphasizing the concrete, physical nature of the lattice, despite its abstractness. Are you ready to wrap your mind around a concept that could challenge everything you thought you knew about the universe and your place within it? Brace yourself, because this is going to get mind-blowingly deep. Imagine stripping away everything you perceive as solid, material, separate. Imagine going beyond atoms, beyond subatomic particles, even beyond the quantum fields we know, and arriving at a primordial substratum, a foundational level of reality that is even more fundamental than energy and matter themselves. Visual. If visuals were allowed, imagine layers of reality peeling away to reveal a deeper, more fundamental level, perhaps starting with everyday objects, zooming into atoms, then subatomic particles, and finally dissolving into an abstract, energetic field. This primordial substratum, this foundation of all that is the quantum neural lattice. Dramatic reveal of the lattice as the foundation of all that is. Grinberg envisioned the lattice as an infinite, continuous, and holographic field. Analogy of hologram to explain the lattice. Think of a holographic plate. Visual, if visuals were allowed, image of a holographic plate. Every point on the holographic plate contains information about the entire image. Explanation of holographic principle in simple terms. Similarly, Grinberg proposed that every point in space contains information about the entire universe, encoded within the lattice, extending hologram analogy to the lattice and universe. The universe, in this view, is like a giant hologram, projected from this infinite, underlying lattice. Bold statement, universe as giant hologram. Our brains, then, are not just perceiving a pre-existing external reality, but are interacting with the lattice itself, tuning in to its holographic projections, and decoding them into our sensory experiences, connecting brain and perception back to the lattice and holographic concept. The lattice is quantum because it operates at the most fundamental level of reality, the quantum realm. Explanation of quantum nature of lattice. It is made of quantum fluctuations, virtual particles, energy that is constantly arising and dissolving in the vacuum of space, connecting lattice to quantum fluctuations and vacuum energy. This vacuum, what we perceive as empty space, is not truly empty at all, but is actually a seething sea of quantum activity, the foundation of the lattice, challenging the notion of empty space and reframing vacuum as active and fundamental. The lattice is neural because, according to Grinberg, it is fundamentally related to consciousness and to the organized, coherent activity of the brain. Explanation of neural aspect of lattice connection to consciousness. He proposed that the brain is not just a passive receiver of information from the lattice, but is an active participant in shaping and organizing the lattice itself. Brain as active participant, not just receiver but shaper. Consciousness, in this view, is not something produced by the brain, but something that is fundamental to the lattice itself, and that the brain acts as a kind of interface or resonator with this universal consciousness field. Bold statement, consciousness as fundamental to the lattice, brain as interface or resonator. The quantum neural lattice, therefore, is not just a physical structure. It is also a consciousness structure, a field of interconnectedness, where mind and matter are fundamentally intertwined. It is a radically holistic view of reality, where everything is connected to everything else, through an invisible, infinite, and conscious network. Concluding with a powerful summary emphasizing holism, interconnectedness, and consciousness. If the quantum neural lattice is real, what are the implications for our understanding of consciousness, reality, and our place in the cosmos? Let's explore the mind-bending implications in the sections to come.
We've journeyed into the limitations of our senses. We've glimpsed the infinite ocean of the quantum neural lattice. Now it's time to answer the crucial question: how does our brain take this vast, invisible, and abstract lattice and transform it into the rich, vibrant, and seemingly solid experience of reality that we perceive every day? This is where the concept of synergy comes in. Introducing synergy as the key to the puzzle. This is Grinberg's brilliant and perhaps most revolutionary insight. Emphasis on brilliant and revolutionary. Are you ready to understand how your brain might be hacking the very fabric of reality? Get ready, because Syntergy is about to blow your mind. Syntergy, in simple terms, is the brain's unique way of processing information from the quantum neural lattice. Simple and direct definition of Syntergy. It's the brain's translation mechanism. Analogy of translation mechanism. Taking the raw, unstructured potentiality of the lattice and organizing it, structuring it, and giving it meaning to create our perceived reality. Explanation of Syntergy as organizing, structuring, and giving meaning. Imagine a lattice as a vast, infinite ocean of raw data, pure potential information, without form or structure. Reusing the ocean analogy to explain the lattice's raw data nature. And imagine your brain as a masterful translator, expertly filtering, decoding, and synthesizing this raw data to create a coherent and meaningful story of reality that we experience as our everyday world. Brain as masterful translator analogy, actively shaping raw data into a coherent story. Grinberg identified two fundamental operations in the process of synergy: coherence and distortion. Introducing two key components of synergy: coherence and distortion. Coherence refers to the brain's ability to create patterns, synchronize neural activity, and integrate information across vast neural networks. Explanation of coherence as pattern creation, synchronization, and integration. Visual. If visuals were allowed, animation showing synchronized neural firing patterns across different brain regions, visualizing neural integration. This coherence is key to extracting meaningful information from the lattice. Emphasis on coherence as essential for information extraction. Think of it like tuning a radio receiver to a specific frequency. Analogy of radio receiver to explain coherence. Coherence allows the brain to tune in to specific frequencies of information within the lattice and amplify those signals, making them available for conscious experience. Extending the radio receiver analogy to tuning in to specific frequencies in the lattice. Distortion, on the other hand, refers to the fact that our perception is not a perfect copy of the lattice, but rather an interpretation, a distortion, of its fundamental information. Explanation of distortion as interpretation and imperfect copy. This distortion is not necessarily negative. It's not about getting reality wrong. Clarifying distortion is not necessarily negative or inaccurate. It's about the brain's active role in shaping and interpreting information to create a specific, subjective experience that is useful and meaningful for us as individuals and as a species. Reframing distortion as active shaping for subjective, meaningful experience. Our brains are not neutral cameras, they are active artists, constantly interpreting and remixing the raw data of the lattice to create the unique and personal masterpiece of our perceived reality. Reusing the brain as artist analogy and emphasizing the masterpiece of personal reality. Syntergy, therefore, is not just about passively receiving information. It's about actively creating reality through a complex process of coherence and distortion of the quantum neural lattice. Summarizing Syntergy as active creation of reality through coherence and distortion. It's a dynamic interplay between the infinite potential of the lattice and the organizing power of the brain. Emphasis on dynamic interplay between lattice and brain. If your brain is actively distorting reality to create your unique experience, how much of what you perceive as objective reality is actually a personal construction? And how might understanding Syntergy change the way you experience your own life? Let's ponder these mind-bending questions as we delve deeper into Syntergic theory.
We've learned about Syntergy, the brain's translation of the quantum neural lattice. We know that this translation involves coherence, organizing information, and distortion, interpreting information. Now, let's zoom in on that second key element, distortion, and specifically, phase distortion. This concept is where Syntergic theory gets really revolutionary and where it directly challenges our conventional understanding of reality itself. Emphasis on revolutionary and challenging conventional reality. Are you ready to confront the idea that what you perceive as objective reality is actually a highly personal and fundamentally an interpretation constructed by your own brain? Prepare to have your mind shifted. Phase distortion in Syntergic theory refers to the idea that our brain does not perceive the quantum neural lattice directly, but rather perceives a distorted version of it, a version that is shaped and modified by the brain's own internal structures and processes. Clear and concise definition of phase distortion: brain perceives a distorted version of the lattice shaped by internal processes. This distortion happens in the phase of the information coming from the lattice. Explanation of phase in phase distortion. Analogy of sound waves and phase distortion. Think of sound waves. Visual. If visuals were allowed, animation of sound waves. Sound waves have amplitude, loudness, and phase, timing and relationship to other waves. Phase distortion in sound can dramatically alter the way we hear a sound, even if the amplitude remains the same. Example of phase distortion in sound, altering perception. Similarly, Grinberg proposed that the brain primarily interacts with the phase information from the lattice, and that this phase information is precisely where the brain's active distortion takes place. Applying phase distortion concept to brain's interaction with lattice, emphasizing active distortion in phase information. Why distort? Why doesn't the brain just perceive the lattice as it is? Because perception is not about accurate representation. It's about adaptive action and survival. Emphasis on adaptive value of distortion. Our brains evolved not to create a perfect map of reality, but to create a useful, actionable model of reality that allows us to navigate the world effectively, make predictions, and survive and thrive in our environment. Reframing perception's purpose as creating a useful, actionable model for survival. Distortion, in this sense, is not a bug. It's a feature. Provocative statement. Distortion is a feature, not a bug. It's the brain's way of selecting, emphasizing, and transforming information from the lattice to create a perception that is optimized for our specific needs and goals. Explaining adaptive function of distortion selection, emphasis transformation for optimized perception. Think about color perception. Example of color perception as phase distortion. Color is not out there in the world as we perceive it. Challenging naive realism about color. Objects don't have color in themselves. Debunking the idea of inherent color in objects. Color is a brain construct. Emphasis on color as brain construct. Light waves have different wavelengths, but color as we experience it, red, blue, green, is the brain's interpretation of these different wavelengths, a distortion of the underlying electromagnetic frequencies. Created for the purpose of object recognition, navigation,
and, ultimately, survival. Explaining color as brain's distortion of wavelengths for survival purposes. Phase distortion in Syntergic theory suggests that all of our sensory experiences, not just color, but also sound, touch, taste, smell, even our sense of space and time, are, in a fundamental sense, phase distortions of the quantum neural lattice, brain-made interpretations of a deeper, more fundamental reality. Extending phase distortion concept to all sensory modalities, emphasizing brain-made interpretations. If your perception of reality is fundamentally a distortion, an interpretation, a brain-made construct, does that mean that objective reality, as we normally conceive it, doesn't actually exist? Oh, or is there a deeper, more fundamental reality beyond our individual interpretations? Oh, and if so, how can we access it? Let's continue to unravel these mind-bending mysteries together.
We have explored phase distortion, understanding how our perception is an interpretation of the quantum neural lattice. But this raises a profound question. If reality is brain-made and perception is distorted, then who is interpreting? Who is having the experience? This brings us to the heart of Syntergic theory's most radical implications. Its understanding of consciousness itself. Introducing consciousness as the central topic, emphasizing radical implications. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I really? Am I just my brain? Am I just my body? Or is there something more, something deeper happening here? Syntergy offers a surprising and potentially liberating answer. Syntergic theory challenges the conventional view that consciousness is merely a product of the brain, an emergent property of complex neural activity, challenging the mainstream view of consciousness as brain product. While acknowledging the crucial role of the brain, Syntergy proposes a much more radical idea. Consciousness is fundamental to the quantum neural lattice itself, and the brain is not the source of consciousness, but a kind of interface, a specialized organ for tuning in and experiencing this universal consciousness. Presenting the radical Syntergic view of consciousness as fundamental to the lattice, brain as interface. Analogy of radio and television to explain brain-lattice relationship. Think of a radio or television set. Visual. If visuals were allowed, image of a radio or television set. The radio/TV receives radio waves, or electromagnetic signals, and translates these into sound and images that we can perceive. Analogy of receiver and translation. But the radio/TV does not create the radio waves or electromagnetic signals, clarifying that receiver doesn't create the signal. These signals already exist out there, in the electromagnetic field. Signals are pre-existing in the field. The radio/TV simply provides a specialized mechanism for accessing and decoding these pre-existing signals. Radio/TV as decoder of pre-existing signals. Similarly, in Syntergic theory, the brain is like a highly complex and sophisticated bioradio, tuned to the quantum neural lattice, decoding its signals and translating them into our subjective experience of consciousness, including our thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions. Applying the radio/TV analogy to the brain as a bioradio tuned to the lattice, decoding its signals into conscious experience. This means that consciousness in Syntergic theory is not limited to the brain, or even to the body. It is fundamentally universal, inherent in the very structure of the quantum neural lattice. Radical implication. Consciousness is universal and not limited to brain/body. Your individual consciousness, your sense of self, is like a localized wave, a temporary pattern of coherence and distortion within this vast and infinite ocean of universal consciousness. Analogy of localized wave of consciousness within the ocean of universal consciousness. You are not simply a separate, isolated brain machine. You are intrinsically connected to this universal field of consciousness, the quantum neural lattice itself, and fundamentally part of it. Emphasis on intrinsic connection and being part of universal consciousness/lattice. This perspective has profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe. Emphasis on profound implications. If consciousness is universal, then death might not be the absolute yindi of consciousness, but a dissolution of our localized pattern of coherence back to the universal ocean of consciousness, the lattice. Implications for understanding death, dissolution, and return to universal consciousness. If we are fundamentally interconnected, then separation might be an illusion of perception, a phase distortion created by our brains, while at a deeper level, we are all one. Implications for interconnectedness and challenging the illusion of separation. How does this idea of universal consciousness and your own intrinsic connection to it change your understanding of yourself, of your life, of your place in the universe? Share your reflections in the comments, because here is where Syntergic Theory begins to be truly transformative.
We've journeyed through the core concepts of Syntergic Theory, the quantum neural lattice, Syntergy, and phase distortion. We've begun to glimpse a radical new understanding of consciousness. Now it's time to explore the amazing implications of this groundbreaking framework. Syntergic theory isn't just an abstract idea, it's a paradigm shift, a revolution in how we understand ourselves, reality, and the very nature of existence. Are you ready to see how Syntergic theory could rewrite everything you thought you knew about the world and your place within it? Prepare for some mind-blowing implications. One of the most astonishing implications of Syntergic theory is its potential to bridge the gap between science and spirituality. Implication number 1. Bridging science and spirituality. For centuries, these two domains have often been seen as separate, even contradictory. Acknowledging historical separation. Science focused on the objective, material world, while spirituality explored the subjective, inner world of consciousness and meaning. Contrasting science and spirituality's focus. Syntergic theory offers a framework where science can finally begin to rigorously investigate consciousness, subjective experience, and even spiritual phenomena within a scientifically grounded model of reality. Syntergy as a bridge, science investigating consciousness/spirituality. It suggests that the quantum neural lattice is not just a physical structure, but also a field of universal consciousness, a field that underlies and permeates all of existence, connecting everything and everyone at the deepest level. Lattice as both physical structure and universal consciousness field, connecting everything. Another revolutionary implication is the potential to reimagine our understanding of reality itself. Implication number 2. Reimagining reality. If our perception is a phase distortion, an interpretation constructed by our brains, then objective reality, as we commonly understand it, may be an illusion, or at least incomplete. Challenging conventional, objective reality. Syntergic theory suggests that the true reality is not the world we perceive with our senses, but the underlying quantum neural lattice itself, a realm of infinite potentiality, pure information, and universal consciousness, of which our perceived reality is just a distorted translation. Defining true reality as the lattice, infinite potentiality, pure information, universal consciousness. This is a radical shift in perspective. Emphasis on radical shift. Instead of seeing ourselves as separate beings in a solid material universe, Syntergic theory invites us to see ourselves as integral parts of a vast, interconnected, conscious cosmos,
where reality itself is more like a dream than a fixed, objective thing. Reframing our place in the cosmos, interconnected, conscious, reality as dreamlike. And perhaps the most personally empowering implication of Syntergic theory is its potential to transform our understanding of ourselves and our potential as human beings. Implication number 3. Transforming self-understanding and human potential. If consciousness is fundamental and universal, and our brains are interfaces to this universal field, then the limits of our potential may be far greater than we ever imagined. Expanding perceived limits of human potential. What if your brain is not just a biological computer, but a quantum transducer, capable of tapping into infinite information and unlimited potential within the quantum neural lattice? Provocative question about brain's potential as quantum transducer. What new possibilities might open up if we begin to see ourselves not as limited, separate individuals, but as powerful interconnected manifestations of universal consciousness, capable of co-creating our own reality and the future of our world? Emphasis on empowerment, interconnectedness, co-creation, and unlimited potential. Syntergic theory is more than just a theory. It's an invitation to re-enchant our world, to reconnect with a deeper reality that underlies our everyday experience, and to reimagine our potential, both individually and collectively. Concluding with an invitation and emphasizing re-enchantment, reconnection, and reimagining potential. Final thought-provoking statement: the journey into Syntergy is a journey into the very heart of existence itself. We've explored the mind-blowing implications of Syntergic theory. We've seen how it challenges our conventional views of reality, consciousness, and ourselves. But Syntergy is not just about understanding. It's about transformation. It's about unlocking your inner potential, expanding your consciousness, and actively co-creating a more fulfilling and meaningful reality for yourself and the world. Emphasis on inner potential, consciousness expansion, and co-creation. Ready to discover how Syntergic theory becomes a practical tool for personal growth and positive change. One of the most powerful aspects of Syntergic theory is that it empowers you to own your experience of reality. Transformative power number 1. Empowerment and responsibility. If your perception is phase distortion, reality and interpretation, then you are not a passive victim of an objective world. Challenging passive victimhood. You are an active participant, shaping your reality through your brain's Syntergic translation and your unique phase distortion. Emphasis on active participation through Syntergic translation and phase distortion. This understanding shifts focus from external events to internal states. Shifting focus to internal states. Instead of feeling controlled by the world out there, you realize you influence your inner world, and thus your experience. Empowerment through influencing internal experience. Syntergic theory offers a framework for personal growth and expanded consciousness. Transformative power number 2. Personal growth and expanded consciousness. Consciousness is fundamental and universal. Your brain is an interface. This means you can tap into greater awareness, insight, and creativity. Accessing greater awareness, insight, and creativity. Analogy of tuning fork for expanded consciousness. Think of your brain as a tuning fork, resonating with frequencies of the universal consciousness field, the quantum neural lattice. Brain as tuning fork, resonating with universal consciousness. Tune your brain through practices like meditation, mindfulness, and intention. Practical applications: meditation, mindfulness, intention for expanded consciousness. Access expanded consciousness, self-awareness, and a deeper connection to yourself, others, and the universe. Syntergic theory points towards collective transformation and co-creation. Transformative power number 3, collective transformation and co-creation. We are interconnected through the quantum neural lattice. Separation is an illusion, challenging the illusion of separation and emphasizing interconnectedness. We are interdependent, part of a larger whole, sharing a field of consciousness and a shared destiny. Emphasis on interdependence, shared consciousness, shared destiny. What positive changes can we create in our world by embracing interconnectedness and co-creation? Question about collective positive change through interconnectedness and co-creation. Imagine the possibilities for our future, together. Syntergic theory is more than theory. It's an invitation to re-enchant our world, to re-connect with deeper reality, and to re-imagine our potential together. Concluding with an invitation and emphasizing re-enchantment, reconnection, and reimagining potential. Final thought-provoking statement: the journey into Syntergy is a journey into your own limitless potential.
We've discussed the transformative power of Syntergic theory, unlocking our potential and co-creating a better reality. But how does Syntergy impact something deeply personal to all of us? Our health and well-being. Syntergic theory offers a revolutionary perspective on the mind-body connection, stress, healing, and how we can cultivate greater inner coherence for optimal well-being. Introducing key themes: mind-body connection, stress, healing, inner coherence. Are you interested in understanding how Syntergy can provide a science-based path to enhance your physical, mental, and emotional health? Let's explore Syntergy for well-being. Syntergic theory provides a profound understanding of the mind-body connection, going beyond simple mind over matter. Transformative application number 1. Understanding mind-body connection. If reality is an interpretation created by the brain, and consciousness is fundamental to the quantum neural lattice, then our mental and emotional states are not separate from our physical body. Challenging mind-body separation. Our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs directly influence the phase distortion patterns in our brains, which in turn impact the quantum neural lattice and our overall physiology. Explaining influence of mental states on brain patterns, lattice, and physiology. This means stress, negative emotions, and disharmonious thought patterns can create incoherence in our brains and bodies, contributing to imbalances and dis-ease. Connecting stress and negative emotions to incoherence and dis-ease. Conversely, Syntergic theory suggests that cultivating inner coherence is key to optimal health. Transformative application number 2. Cultivating inner coherence for health. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, heart-centered breathing, and positive intention are not just relaxation techniques. Reframing practices like meditation. They are powerful tools to realign our brainwave patterns, promote neural coherence, and resonate with the harmonious frequencies of the quantum neural lattice. Explaining how practices promote coherence and resonance. By intentionally cultivating states of calm, focus, positive emotion, and gratitude, we can actively support our body's natural healing abilities and enhance our overall well-being. Emphasizing active role in self-healing through coherence. Syntergic theory invites us to reimagine healing itself. Transformative application number 3. Reimagining healing. Healing is not just about passively receiving treatment or fighting disease as an external enemy. Challenging passive view of healing. Healing becomes an active, integrative process, involving our consciousness, our brain, our body, and our inherent connection to the quantum neural lattice. defining healing as active, integrative, and connected to consciousness/lattice. What if your own consciousness, your own intention, and your ability to cultivate inner coherence are among the most powerful medicines you possess? Provocative question about consciousness and intention as medicine. Syntergic theory suggests that by understanding and harnessing these inner resources, we can unlock a greater capacity for self-healing, resilience, and vitality. Emphasis on self-healing, resilience, vitality, and inner resources. Syntergic theory offers not just a new understanding of reality, but a science-based framework for cultivating health and well-being. Concluding with emphasis on science-based framework for well-being. It empowers us to take an active role in our own health journey. By understanding the profound connection between our minds, our bodies, and the universal field of consciousness that underlies all of existence. Final thought-provoking statement. Syntergy invites you to become an active participant in your own well-being, harnessing the power of your inner coherence for a healthier, more vibrant life.
We've journeyed into the fascinating realm of Syntergic theory, exploring consciousness, perception, and reality itself. But now, let's venture even further into the mind-blowing territory where neuroscience meets quantum physics. Intriguing opening and connection to quantum physics. Because the deeper you go into Syntergy, the more you realize it starts to resonate with some of the most mysterious and profound discoveries of quantum mechanics. Emphasis on resonance and mystery of quantum mechanics. Could Syntergic theory be offering us a bridge between the inner world of consciousness and the outer world of quantum reality? Let's explore the quantum connections of Syntergy. One of the most striking parallels is the concept of non-locality. Quantum concept number 1, non-locality. Syntergy proposes a quantum neural lattice, a fundamental, non-local field of interconnectedness that underlies all of reality and consciousness. Syntergy's non-local lattice. And guess what? Quantum physics has also revealed non-locality in the quantum world. Quantum physics non-locality. Scientific analogy number 1, quantum entanglement. Think of quantum entanglement. Two particles instantly connected, no matter how far apart, influencing each other faster than light. Asterisk asterisk. Analogy, quantum entanglement. Could the quantum neural lattice be a manifestation of this fundamental non-locality at the level of consciousness and brain function? Question about lattice as manifestation of non-locality. Another fascinating convergence is the idea of reality as interpretation or phase distortion. Quantum concept number 2, reality as interpretation/phase distortion. Syntergy suggests our brains actively interpret and distort raw reality into our subjective experience. Syntergy's phase distortion. And quantum physics, well, it gets really weird here. Intrigue and weirdness of quantum physics. Scientific analogy number 2, wave-particle duality and observer effect. Consider wave-particle duality. Quantum particles can behave as both waves and particles, depending on how we observe them. Asterisk asterisk. Analogy, wave-particle duality and observer effect. And the observer effect. The act of observing a quantum system seems to influence its very reality. Asterisk asterisk. Emphasis on observer influence. Does this quantum observer effect parallel our brain's phase distortion, suggesting that consciousness is not just a passive observer, but an active co-creator of reality, even at the quantum level? Provocative question about consciousness as active co-creator at quantum level. These are not just simple analogies. Syntergy and quantum physics may be pointing towards a deeper, more integrated understanding of consciousness and the universe. Moving beyond analogies to deeper integration. Perhaps consciousness is not just in the universe, but fundamental to the universe itself. Radical idea. Consciousness fundamental to universe. Perhaps the quantum neural lattice is not just a brain structure, but a microcosm of the universal quantum field. Syntergic lattice as microcosm of universal quantum field. What if our minds, our consciousness, are fundamentally entangled with the quantum fabric of reality? What does this mean for who we are and our place in the cosmos? Deep philosophical questions about entanglement and place in cosmos. Synergy and quantum physics. They offer us a glimpse into a reality far stranger, more interconnected, and more mysteriously wonderful than we ever imagined. Concluding with glimpse and emphasizing strangeness, interconnectedness, and mystery. Final thought-provoking statement: the convergence of synergy and quantum physics may be just the beginning of an amazing journey into the deepest secrets of consciousness and reality.
We've explored the revolutionary ideas of Syntergic theory and its connections to the quantum world. But now, let's turn our attention back to the enigmatic figure who started it all, Jacobo Grinberg-Zilberbaum. Intriguing opening. Focus on Grinberg's figure. His disappearance remains an unsolved mystery, but his scientific legacy, that's something we can explore. Shifting focus to scientific legacy. Was Jacobo Grinberg a scientific visionary, ahead of his time? Or does his work remain an unsolved mystery, just like his disappearance? Let's delve into the legacy of Jacobo Grinberg. On one hand, Grinberg was undeniably a brilliant and innovative neuroscientist. Argument for visionary scientist. He developed original theories about brain function and consciousness that were decades ahead of mainstream science, highlighting originality and ahead of time. Scientific accomplishment number 1. Syntergic theory, radical idea. Syntergic theory itself is a radical and groundbreaking framework that challenges conventional views of perception and reality. Emphasis on radical and groundbreaking nature. His boldness to explore consciousness scientifically at a time when it was often dismissed as unscientific is remarkable and inspiring, highlighting boldness and inspiration. Grinberg also left behind a vast body of research and publications. Argument for visionary scientist continued. He conducted numerous experiments and published extensively in peer-reviewed journals, exploring topics from EEG studies of interbrain communication to the nature of perception and altered states of consciousness, highlighting extensive research and publications. Scientific accomplishment number 2, extensive research and publications, empirical basis. His empirical approach to studying consciousness, combining rigorous scientific methods with exploration of non-ordinary phenomena, is a testament to his scientific dedication. Emphasis on empirical approach and scientific dedication. However, on the other hand, many questions about Grinberg's work and legacy remain unanswered. Shifting to unsolved mystery argument. Was Syntergic theory truly a unified field theory of consciousness, as some have claimed? Or was it a promising but incomplete framework, requiring further validation and refinement? Questioning validity and completeness of Syntergic theory. Mystery number 1. Unproven and lacking mainstream acceptance. Despite decades of work, Syntergic theory has not gained mainstream acceptance in the scientific community, and many of its core tenets remain unproven, highlighting lack of mainstream acceptance and unproven status. And of course, we cannot ignore the unresolved mystery of his disappearance. Mystery number 2. disappearance. The strange circumstances surrounding his disappearance in 1994 and the lack of conclusive explanations to this day cast a long shadow over his legacy. Emphasis on strange circumstances and lack of explanations. Does the enigma of his disappearance somehow intertwine with the radical nature of his ideas? Did he know too much, as some speculate? Or was it a more mundane explanation that remains hidden from view? Speculative questions about disappearance and radical ideas. Ultimately, the legacy of Jacobo Grinberg remains open to interpretation and further exploration. Concluding with open interpretation and further exploration. Thought-provoking statement: whether you see him as a visionary or an unsolved mystery, one thing is undeniable. Jacobo Grinberg was a scientific pioneer who dared to challenge the boundaries of our understanding of consciousness and reality. Final statement emphasizing Grinberg as pioneer and challenger of boundaries. His work continues to inspire debate, research, and the quest to unlock the deepest secrets of the human mind.
We've explored the legacy of Jacobo Grinberg and the profound questions surrounding his work. But now, we must confront the central enigma that shrouds his entire story. His unexplained disappearance. Intriguing opening. Focus on central enigma of disappearance. In December 1994, Jacobo Grinberg vanished without a trace, and to this day, his whereabouts remain unknown. Emphasis on unexplained and unknown. What happened to Jacobo Grinberg? Was it a tragic accident, a voluntary vanishing, or something far stranger? Let's explore the enigmas and theories behind the Grinberg mystery. The official version, presented by the Mexican authorities, points to a possible voluntary departure. Theory number 1, voluntary departure, official version. They suggested Grinberg may have left Mexico voluntarily, possibly with his second wife, Teresa Mendoza, presenting official version of voluntary departure with Teresa Mendoza. Evidence number 1, travel and personal life. Evidence cited included travel records suggesting Teresa Mendoza traveled to New York around the time of his disappearance and rumors of personal and financial problems in Grinberg's life, mentioning travel records and rumors of problems. However, this voluntary departure theory has always been met with skepticism by many, including Grinberg's family and colleagues, highlighting skepticism and lack of acceptance by family/colleagues. Another theory points to a more sinister possibility, involuntary disappearance or even abduction. Theory number 2, involuntary disappearance/abduction, sinister possibility. This theory suggests Grinberg may have been targeted due to the controversial nature of his research and connections, highlighting controversial research and connections as potential motive. Evidence number 2, controversial research and connections. Grinberg was exploring unconventional areas like telepathy and altered states of consciousness, and some speculate he may have stumbled upon sensitive information or attracted the wrong attention. Mentioning unconventional research, telepathy, and potential sensitive information. Could Grinberg's groundbreaking work on consciousness have somehow led to his unexplained disappearance? Questioning if groundbreaking work led to disappearance. And then there are the more esoteric and out there theories. Theory number 3, esoteric/out there theories, wilder speculations. Some speculate Grinberg may have achieved a transcendental state of consciousness and voluntarily stepped out of ordinary reality, perhaps even dissolving his physical body in the process. Presenting esoteric theories, transcendental state, dissolving body. Evidence number 3, Syntergic Theory and consciousness potential. This theory draws on Grinberg's own ideas about the nature of reality and the limitless potential of consciousness. linking esoteric theories to Syntergic theory itself. While highly speculative, these esoteric interpretations highlight the radical and boundary-pushing nature of Grinberg's thought and the enduring mystery that surrounds him. Acknowledging speculative nature, but connecting to radical thought and mystery. The truth about Jacobo Grinberg's disappearance remains elusive and may never be fully known, concluding with elusive truth and potential unknowability. Thought-provoking statement: perhaps the greatest enigma of Jacobo Grinberg is not just what happened to him, but what his disappearance itself represents, a permanent question mark hanging over the limits of our knowledge and the deepest mysteries of consciousness and reality. Final statement emphasizing disappearance as a permanent question mark over knowledge and mysteries of consciousness. The Grinberg vanishing remains unsolved.
So, we've reached the end of our exploration of Syntergic theory. But remember, this isn't really the end. It's just the beginning of your journey into the fascinating world of consciousness and your own potential. Are you ready to take the next step and unlock your Syntergic potential? Syntergic theory, with its mind-bending ideas about phase distortion and the quantum neural lattice, offers a radical new way to understand yourself and your place in reality. It's a scientific invitation to rethink your perceptions, expand your consciousness, and actively create a more fulfilling and meaningful life. What will you do today to start applying synergy in your life? What reality hack will you unlock first? Your journey into synergy is just beginning. To dive deeper into Syntergic theory, explore the resources linked in the description below. Join our community of Synergy explorers to connect, share ideas, and continue this amazing journey together. The power to transform your experience lies within you, and synergy is one of the most powerful keys to unlock it. Join the Syntergy Revolution. It's more than knowledge, it's an invitation to redefine your perceptions, to expand your consciousness, and to create a more meaningful, fulfilling life. What will you do today to start applying synergy in your life? Which reality hack will you unlock first? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. And here's the thing, the power to reshape your experience, it's already within you. And synergy may be the most powerful key to unlock it. Don't miss out on the next breakthrough. Click on the Power Within logo to subscribe and become part of the Syntergy Revolution. Leave a comment below. What topics would you like us to explore next? Your ideas could shape our next video. Your journey is just beginning, and the best is yet to come. Join the Syntergy Revolution. Your next reality shift is just one click away.